Hey everybody, Rob Maurer here, and today we are talking about a report that additional EV credits that could be introduced through the renewable fuel standard are apparently no longer being considered. That has been reportedly dropped, so we'll talk about what that means exactly. We've also got new updated insured vehicle numbers out of for Tesla in China, and some new sightings of Project Highland, which we haven't seen for a little bit. All right, looking at the stock, I've got two pulled up here today. As you guys know, yesterday the stock that Google was reporting was wrong, a little bit inflated, but we caught up to that today. Tesla today closing at $221.31 after finishing the day up 1.7%. And we do have consensus there with Yahoo Finance as well. So good to see that. After hours, also both sites reporting that Tesla up another 1.7%. Not sure if there's been any news or anything like that, not that I've seen. So interesting to see such a move after hours, but nice to see that as well as this run kind of continues for Tesla. All right, we'll start off with China insured vehicle numbers for the last week, May 29th through June 4th. Apparently there were 14,500 insured vehicles for Tesla in China. As we can see in the updated chart here, that is a record for this quarter. If we go back to the last couple of quarters, this would be the fifth strongest week across that 6+ month time period. So looks like a really strong number here, and we've continued to see growth for the last 6 weeks in a row in the insured vehicle numbers. If we think about quarter to date, we're now at just shy of 95,000 insured in the first 9 weeks of the quarter, excluding the first couple of days there in April, since those fell into the numbers for Q1. But so far, that puts Tesla about 10,000 vehicles ahead of the pace for Q4. And then Q1, obviously a little bit impacted by Chinese New Year, but about 23,000 or so ahead of that pace for Q1. So Q2 right now, significantly ahead of where Q4 and Q1 were. So really nice to see that. If Tesla is to set a record this quarter, in terms of these insured vehicle numbers, they need to average about 10,500 for the rest of the quarter, which seems very achievable. Obviously, with the last few weeks, average falling above that. But we do have the caveat of a little bit of potential production downtime for the Model 3 particularly, as we expect Tesla to be working right now on Project Highland. So we'll continue to monitor that, but it's within reach, even if with only Model Ys. Probably a little bit of a stretch, but if they can get some Model 3s in there as well, should have a chance at that. All right, next I want to talk about something that we've talked about on a couple of previous episodes, and that is the renewable fuel standard and the possibility of electric vehicles being included in that sort of credit system. So basically the renewable fuel standard, as we have talked about before, is used to incentivize essentially biogas mixing in with traditional fossil fuels to try to make things a little bit more sustainable. So obviously everyone's got sort of opinions on this, and it's a pretty big deal for that industry. But basically this is the structure of it. So renewable fuel that is blended with traditional fuels generate RIN credits, and then those credits can be sold on a marketplace, and you can see sort of the market for those over time, and there's various different credits at various different levels. We're not going to go through all of that since we have talked about that before, but the news today is that apparently the Biden administration is going to abandon a proposal that was intended to allow electric vehicles to participate in this system, because obviously electric vehicles would be a form of alternative sustainable fuel, which, if you're thinking about what this is supposed to incentivize from sort of a sustainability perspective, should probably be able to generate credits. And there is actually even a conversion ratio in the renewable fuel standard for 22.6 kilowatt hours of electricity generating one renewable credit. So it's kind of all there. They're just excluded right now. The reason has supposedly been that it's difficult to track exactly where this electricity would be coming from, if it's a sustainable source, things like that, which, I guess sort of makes a little bit of sense. But if there were ways to kind of figure that out and show that, it should be something that theoretically should be included. So a little bit disappointing to see this. This could have been a pretty big deal, and it has been expected to be a pretty big deal for Tesla and other electric vehicles now for quite some time. Obviously, though, with the passing of the Inflation Reduction Act, significant credits exist for electric vehicles, so puts a little bit less pressure for anything to be included here. You could kind of say that, okay, maybe some of the difference that was going to come from this has been rolled into that, and maybe that makes it a little bit more reasonable. So while it is disappointing to see, obviously at least there are some credits at least kind of leveling the playing field, because obviously as we see here, there are subsidies going to other types of fuels as well. So unfortunate. There will probably be some more reporting on this over the next couple of weeks as these things get finalized, so we'll keep an eye out for any more news on that. Now, also on EV credits, we talked previously about the Model 3 standard range and long range being eligible now for the full $7,500 credit. So we've talked about that over the last couple of episodes. That so far has only been on Tesla's site, but it is now showing up on fueleconomy.gov as well. So this doesn't necessarily mean it's confirmation that this is, sort of confirmed by the government, but because this is basically what manufacturers are reporting, but still probably a positive sign to see that updated on the Fuel Economy website as well. All right, next we've got an update on Project Highland. It's been a while since we've seen prototypes rolling around, but Ryan from the Kilowatts has spotted another one testing. So we can kind of see here a pretty good shot of the front of the vehicle. It very much looks like the sort of leaked image that we had where you've got more of a straight across line there versus sort of like sorry about hitting my mic there, versus sort of the little droopy mouth on the current Model 3, if you want to call it that. So it looks, like pretty solid confirmation that leak was probably quite accurate. I think that's relatively, strong consensus at this point. But still, I think this, furthers that sort of point of view. And then we also see some shots of the back. It looks like maybe some updated taillights, probably no surprise there. And then people were also able to spot a little bit of a diffuser underneath the vehicle, like we have seen on the Model S. Let me find that here. So you can see that underneath the vehicle there as well. So hopefully we're not too far out from seeing this without some covers on it, but still nice to see, any little bit that we can. Obviously hardware 4 looks like there as well, which no surprise. And possibly some new headlights, which again, also no surprise, but a little bit tough to get a look at with the coverage there. So Model 3 inventory, as we wait for Project Highland, is continuing to rise. You can see the chart here. We've talked about this a couple of times over the last few weeks, but we did have a really big jump yesterday. And I think what this jump is probably Tesla adding the new long-range version to inventory. So those are really showing up pretty significantly in inventory now. Obviously, it looks like Tesla is producing these in high volume at this point. So you can see a lot of different configurations here. This is just a zip code in California, but looks like a lot of these have been added now to inventory. So whether that's, a sign of Model 3 demand being slow or people kind of holding off for Project Highland kind of remains to be seen. But I think that's probably the explanation for the significant jump there. Hopefully someone will get one of those soon and we can get a little bit more information on the batteries. If these are showing up in inventory, we should probably be just a couple of days away from that. Remember, the big question right now is if these are using lithium iron phosphate, because this is a lower range vehicle at 333 miles maximum versus 358 before the Model 3 long range kind of went away and then has resurfaced. So questions on what's going on with the battery there, and hopefully we'll get some more information on that relatively soon. All right, last few things for today. So Ray for Tesla here tweeting about something that happened in China. Obviously, we've had various reports over the years of unintended acceleration or failure to brake from Tesla vehicles that then result in accidents. This person was in a similar situation and actually admitted that it was not a brake failure, but accidentally hitting the wrong pedal. So kind of nice to see that from a customer that admitted the mistake, as obviously ends up being the case once the data logs are reviewed for a lot of those other cases. So nice to see that. Elon commented on that as well today. Mobileye. So obviously this is wholly owned now, at least in terms of the voting shares, by Intel. So they are going to offer 35 million shares, about $1.5 billion in equity for conversion of Class B to Class A stock. The Class A stock does trade, but the Class B stock has 10-to-1 voting rights. So essentially Mobileye controls the entire voting rights for the stock. Prior to this, you can see they've got 99.3% of voting power there. This is going to drop now to 88.7% after this issuance. So they lose, I guess, a little bit of control, but not really with this issuance. But getting, liquidating a little bit of that stock for in exchange for some cash, which, always a little bit interesting to see for a company like this that theoretically should be in a sort of prime position to make gains if they make progress on the things that they're working on. So always kind of interesting to see, updates on that. And then lastly, we've got a new prototype vehicle for Buick, which falls under the GM brand, or GM conglomerate, I guess, in China. They've unveiled the Proxima prototype, which, as we can see here, looks like a pretty cool car, maybe except for the Buick badging there on the front, but looks pretty nice. As you can see, though, the doors here, reminiscent of Falcon Wing, probably not Falcon Wing, they don't look like they're double hinged there, but I guess maybe those would be called butterfly wings, not sure exactly. Gull wing, probably. But as we've seen from GM in the past, particularly if you look back at the Chevy Volt, so the plug-in hybrid version that they initially started with, if you look back at that prototype vehicle versus what it eventually turned into, I think hopes are probably pretty low for this actually making it to market in any sort of a similar way to how this vehicle looks today. But still interesting to see the concept vehicle nonetheless. All right, that'll wrap it up for today then. So as always, thank you for listening. Make sure you're subscribed and signed up for notifications. You can also find me on Twitter at Tesla Podcast. And we'll see you tomorrow for the Wednesday, June 7th episode of Tesla Daily. Thank you.